My next guest on this episode of Aging with Grace 55 Plus is very intriguing. And he says that in an article I was reading, and you may also want to read this as well, it's in O Magazine most recently. It was a fascinating read about what he has created called Modern Elder Academy. And Chip Conley says, inspired by his own midlife reckoning, he, as a seasoned entrepreneur, founded the Modern Elder Academy to help others grow with unfettered passion and purpose. With that as an intro, Chip, how are you? And welcome to Aging with Grace 55 Plus.
Thank you, Dale. Good to be with you. Honored to be joining you.
Well, we appreciate that as well. Chip, one of the things I think that we're going to open with is you said something which really resonates with me, and I'm sure millions of others of us who are now in midlife. And the question is, you say it's impossible to be in midlife and not wonder how you got there. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, I think we have a very confusing relationship with aging. And so when you're 15 years old and your aunt says to you, "Oh, my Dale, look at how much you've grown in the last couple of years." We think of our physical growth as the only form of growth. And so at some point we move from growth, you're growing, to your aging.
Okay.
So you don't say to a 55-year-old, "Hey, look at Dale, look at how much you've grown lately." No, you say, you probably don't say, "Look at how much you've aged lately" either. But I think one of the challenges we have with midlife is that it's sort of like that middle, it's the middle of anything. Sometimes being in the middle of something can feel a little bit confusing because you don't know whether you're on the young side or the old side, and you're either the old young or the young old. And just talking about age scares people. They hate getting that Hallmark card making fun of their age at 45.
Oh yeah.
They hate getting that AARP card at 49.
Yes.
So long story short is, midlife is now defined as 35 to 75 by many sociologists. So it's a marathon.
It is a marathon, and I like what you say, that midlifers, you're very broad with it. You're saying age 28 to 88, averaging 54 years old. But I like how you push that out on the continuum to 88 years old.
Well, that is who's come to MEA. So to the Modern Elder Academy, 28 to 88 is the range of people who have actually come to our workshops here in Baja and soon in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We have about 4,000 alumni from 44 countries. And
Wow.
yes, the average age is 54. So it's sort of solidly midlife.
Well, you touched on a nerve when you talked about that dreaded, nothing against AARP, and full candor, Kentucky AARP is one of the sponsors of this program, in addition to DPL Financial. I appreciate both of them, so I'm not disparaging anyone. But the point is, Chip, I want to get your thoughts on this. As a male, when I got that card at 49 years old, brother, I went screaming and kicking into that good night of age, because all I saw ahead of me was decrepitude. All I saw was the society telling me to get out of the way. All I saw was this inevitable aging. And is that particular to males, or is it also, from your experience, particular to males and females?
Well, the social science research on this is pretty conclusive, and it shows that what women feel as they go into midlife is invisibility, and what men feel is irrelevance. Both of those start with the letter I. Now, why is that? So for women, it's, they have been noticed for their beauty, for their looks. They get attention for that. And by midlife, you start to realize that people aren't looking at you anymore like they used to.
Yeah.
And so that's more true for women. For men, it's feeling like, you don't have people listening to you anymore. Nobody wants to hear from you. Nobody thinks that you have value. And so, those, I actually think invisibility is easier to get over because quite frankly, it's actually, for some women, liberating. But for men, irrelevance is hard to get over because there's a sense of, okay, I'm no longer useful. But the truth is, you can be useful. You're just not youthful. You're not youthful anymore, but you are useful. And that's why I wrote about this in my book, Wisdom at Work, The Making of a Modern Elder, which was my book about my experience at Airbnb, where I joined the company at age 52.
We're going to go to that part in just a minute, but now that we're at the Modern Age Elder Academy, you position this as the world's first midlife wisdom school. So why did you start it? And maybe we'll segue from there back to your hotel days, and how you got to this point.
Yeah, I think I may have to tell that story. So
Please.
I was at 26, started a boutique hotel company, ran it for 24 years till I was 50. The
Hmm.
last 3 or 4 years of it, I hated it. I loved it until I hated it.
Hmm.
And I had a flatline experience where I died and had an allergic reaction to an antibiotic and went to the other side a few times. And all of that got me to wake up and say, like, man, my late 40s sucks. I'm not
Hmm.
enjoying this. And
Yeah.
I ultimately sold the company at the bottom of the Great Recession and moved on to Airbnb. And what happened for me in my 50s was I had my best decade of my life. I'm 63 now,
Hmm.
but my best decade of my life happened in my 50s. And that was because I felt relevant and because I felt like, wow, I was working with young people and they appreciated me. They called me the modern elder at Airbnb because I was helping the three founders, take a little tech startup and turn it into a global brand. And um,
Not only an elder, but actually you said you were a mentern. I love that. I
Yeah,
love
I was a
that.
mentor because I was both a mentor and an intern.
Oh, that's
I
so
was I
good.
was a mentor in all kinds of ways, but I was an intern because I never worked in a tech company before. And so I was learning as much from the young people as they were from me. And that
Hmm.
was a beautiful experience. And that's what led me to writing my book, Wisdom at Work, The Making of a Modern Elder. And while I was writing that book here in Baja, on a beachfront, in a beachfront home, I had this Baja aha. I had an epiphany, which
Hmm.
was, why is it that we don't have midlife wisdom schools? A place where people in the middle of their life can reimagine and repurpose themselves. Because
Hmm.
if you're 54 and you're going to live till age 90, you're exactly halfway through your adult life if you start counting at age 18.
Hmm.
So what I really wanted to do was to create a product that was a pro-aging, not an anti-aging product.
Hmm. And I think as part of this, as part of your own process, so we're going to talk a little bit about the metamorphosis and some of the substantive things that you do at Modern Elder Academy. But also, not only did you die, my friend, but you said you actually lost 5 friends to death,
Yeah.
specifically suicide. So
Right.
was that also part of the not compulsion, but that was that part of your motivation, if you will? There's got to be something
Compulsion.
better.
Well, there was a little compulsion too, because
Okay.
I did feel a sense of responsibility to these five friends of mine, all of them men, age 42 to 52. One of my closest friends, who's my same age, and his name was Chip. And he was Chip Hankins. He was my insurance
Mm,
broker and somebody I really cared deeply about. And so, sometimes I've asked myself, if MEA existed back then, how
mhm.
many of those five might still be living? And it's a very important question to ask because midlife suicide today is more than twice as high as it was 20
Yikes.
years ago.
Yikes.
So the bottom line is we need to figure out how to make sense of this midlife crisis. I now call it a midlife chrysalis. The
Hmm.
idea that if you think about the caterpillar to butterfly journey, the midlife in that journey is the chrysalis, the cocoon, where it's solitary and gooey and quite liminal, but it's
Yeah,
also where the
soupy, right?
transformation happens.
Kind of
Very,
soupy.
very gooey and soupy, but it's
Yeah.
also where the transformation happens. And
Hmm.
I do believe that midlife is a tough period for a lot of people, but it's also where you're able to let go of some things that aren't working anymore.
Hmm.
And if you are properly coached through it, you can actually get to the other side.
Well, then let's go ahead and delve into that. What exactly is the midlife chrysalis moment? What's the process?
So what we do at MEA is we help people to understand really four key things. Number one is, how do you navigate transitions, especially in midlife?
Hmm.
Number two is, how do you help cultivate a sense of purpose? Because a lot of times people had a purpose earlier in their life, and like midlife, like my purpose was like raising my kids, and now I'm an empty nester, or my purpose was this job that I used to have, and I got fired, and like, what's next?
Hmm.
A third, one of our key ingredients to our program is how to go from a fixed to a growth mindset,
Hmm.
which allows a person to make more options for themselves.
Hmm.
And then the fourth piece is learning how to own your own wisdom. And
Hmm.
as a wisdom school, we believe that wisdom is exceptionally important. And basically, wisdom is the metabolized experience of your life lessons. So your
Hmm.
painful life lessons are the raw material for your future wisdom.
Oh,
So
that's
long story
good.
short is that's what we do. And we help with people. I'm just finishing a workshop like literally today and
Mhm,
usually a 5-night program, about 20 to 30 people in the workshop from all
mhm.
over the world, 4,000 alumni at this point from 44 countries. Um, and it's a really diverse group of people because we have actually financial aid as well. So
Mhm.
that allows some people who normally couldn't afford something like this to be able to join us. And we'll have a Santa Fe, New Mexico campus opening in March.
I love the fact that you're sensitive to people's different income levels, which probably also enhances the diversity of participation. Yes.
Exactly. It's really important
Mhm,
because if you're just
mhm,
surrounded by people who look like you or, have the same amount of money you have or the same career, you don't learn. We
mhm,
believe that wisdom is not taught, it's shared.
mhm,
And that sharing of wisdom across a diverse set of people is that much more interesting.
mhm. For our guests, for those who are joining us in process, I have the pleasure of interviewing Chip Conley. He's the founder of Modern Elder Academy, located in Baja, New Mexico. And we're so glad that you spent some time
Well,
with
actually
us
in Baja, Mexico.
in Baja,
Um,
Mexico.
yeah,
Ah,
and Santa Fe, New Mexico coming up in March.
that's your new campus, and we're
That's
gonna
right.
talk about that in a second. But Chip, I want to circle back to something that you said, which I thought was kind of interesting. One of the articles I was reading, you said, "Out of your discontent and dark night of the soul came curiosity and an inward search for deeper meaning." I thought I was reading an Edgar Allan Poe novel when I read that. So reflect on that, because I really want people to understand the sentient moment. I want them to understand how where you were in creating this incredible movement that served over 4,000 people so far.
Well, I think sometimes you have to have a bit of a breakdown to have a breakthrough.
Mm,
And
mhm,
when I say breakdown, I don't necessarily mean you have a psychological breakdown, but you have to sort of get worn down. My friend Brene Brown, the famous sociologist, calls it the midlife unraveling.
mm,
And what she means by that is that if you look at the word ravel in the dictionary, something that's raveled is something that's wound up and so
mhm.
tightly wound you can't unwind it.
Yeah.
And that's what midlife feels for a lot of people. They feel like, wow, I have so many obligations. It's like spinning plates. And there's a bunch of things I do now that I don't like doing anymore. And there's in obligations and I've accumulated all this stuff in my life. And you just sort of feel like, wow, this is too much.
Yeah.
And so the unraveling is to like get clear on what isn't working for me anymore. And we do something at MEA in the first 24 hours of a workshop called the Great Midlife Edit.
Mhm,
And it is the way that a person starts to identify the mindsets, the ways of being, the archetypes or identities, and all the habits and things that aren't working for you anymore.
mhm.
And we go through a bit of a beautiful collective ritual where people let that go.
Yeah.
And we do it, in a community in the cohort. And it's a really vulnerable experience, but it's also one that's really powerful because you now have a collection of people there who are your witnesses to support you in building this new life. And yeah, so
When you're in this community that you talk about, Chip, and I looked online, looks like you have a Greek temple there. You got these pools, you got these arches. It's like, how could you not repurpose your life in that environment? So I imagine the environment is intentionally designed to enhance the process of changing your ideology, if you will, over a
yeah,
period of 5 days, my friend. Yes.
it's 5 nights, 6 days,
Mhm.
and it's basically, yeah, the environment, it's sort of a luxury accommodation. So I'm a longtime boutique hotelier. So I love doing hospitality. So the idea that we have spectacular food,
Yeah.
we for those who want it, we have alcohol at night, which is very unusual for a retreat center. But you're in Mexico, like
Yeah.
you want to have a margarita maybe after a long
Right.
day.
Right.
And the fact that we have just beautiful, stunning accommodations, 3 swimming pools, 2 hot tubs, 2 steam rooms,
Mhm.
massage therapy room, mountain bikes,
Oh my
horseback
gosh.
riding. So it's really meant to be an environment where you feel well cared for.
Yeah.
Because what we're also helping to do is increase your well-being.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times people in midlife are really run down.
Yeah, burned down, if you will. Something you mentioned a minute ago, I want to ping off of personally. You said that sometimes you feel like, hey, you have all these plates spinning, right? And you just feel like you got to go here, you have to go there. When I
Mhm.
retired 4 years ago now, I know I'm not retired, I'm repurposed. And as
Uh-huh.
part of my repurposement, I realized, Chip, and this was very freeing, and I know you know this as well. When people say, Dale, you have to, and I'm involved in the community, involved in my church, I got family, I have obligations, right? But when people say you have to do this, Chip, the only thing we have to do is breathe in and breathe out. Everything
Yep.
else after that is optional. And that's been very freeing and liberating for me. And so once you get to that point, is that where you cross that fulcrum of age where you realize you really don't have any obligations?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not being capricious. I take care of my family, we have bills. But when people say you have to do something, is it not liberating to say all you have to do is breathe in and breathe out? Everything else is
Well,
optional.
excuse me, but my grandmother used to say to me, "Stop shoulding all over yourself." Should shoulding, like shoulding, as in
Shooting. I love.
shoulding. Stop shoulding all over yourself, boy.
Yeah. Let's,
And
let's get that
so
vowel in there. Shooting all over yourself. Go ahead,
shoulding.
buddy. I like
Yeah, so
that.
there's an element of there's a lot of shoulds in our life as we grow
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And the shoulds sometimes have great influence because they help us to make good decisions and look at the world in the way that allows us to tap into the wisdom of our elders. But the truth is that sometimes it's like, wait, that is not my path.
Hmm.
That should path you put me on was not my path,
Yeah.
so and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a terrible path. It just means it's not yours. And
Hmm.
so one of the things I think that happens in midlife is that we learn that we can, chart our own path. We can be the map maker for our own path.
I like it.
We don't have to live by everybody else's rules, and we stop caring quite as much what other people think about us. Now,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean
Yeah.
we don't care about things. It doesn't mean we're not
Correct.
committed to things or
Right.
obligated. It just
Right.
means we start to get a little clearer on what's most important.
I read in one of the reviews by one of the folks who had attended your session.
Mhm.
She talked about an exercise where the participants had a piece of driftwood. They wrote on it. They did other things on it, but then they left it on the beach. And over time, the waves came in and finally took that out to
Mhm.
sea. I
Yeah.
thought that was a very powerful thing, which I also
Yeah.
want to leave our viewers with.
The idea, well, first of all, ritual is really important, whether it's
Ritual,
by
yeah.
yourself or whether you're doing it with other people. Religion has been built on ritual for a long time. And so the idea that you could write your intentions on a piece of driftwood or just in the sand, and then allow the ocean to come in and just like, a spiritual WhatsApp or
Mhm.
spiritual Wi-Fi, it takes it out to sea. And having a belief system that, okay, I that's something that I've asked for, and now let's see how it can manifest is valuable.
For our guests, I hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as I have with Chip Conley. He's the founder of Modern Elder Academy to help others grow older with unfettered passion and purpose. Chris, before I ask you for your website, you say, "Welcome to New Life, No Crisis Required," which is the
Mhm.
title of his article in O Magazine. I love that title. Welcome to Midlife, No Crisis Required. That's awesome.
Right.
That
Thank you.
sums up MEA perfectly, does it not?
It does. It does. Thank you.
Very good. What's your website, my friend? How do people get more information?
Yeah, the website for the Modern Elder Academy is meawisdom.com. And you can there I have a daily blog there. You can actually check out my daily blog and become a subscriber for free. And then chipconley.com is my personal website.
Very good. We'll encourage people to go there. I know they'll be there. I'll be checking out your blog as well. I know Jamie is somewhere at the door, tail wagging, wait for you to
Oh,
head
yes,
out.
that is true.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to your assistant, Tiana, for making this happen. Chip, what a great time, my friend. Thank you
Yep.
for your time. I look forward to visiting with you in the future. Another
It was
invitation.
great to meet you in Kentucky.
Thank you so much. I wish
Yeah.
I was in Santa Fe, Baja, but we're going to have to make that
Yeah.
happen. Bye for
All
now.
right.
You're about to meet someone very interesting. And as I was reading her biography, I too hope that you'll find her as intriguing. And I know you will as much as I did. You're about to meet Edna Siniff from Minnesota. And what's important about Edna, number one, is that she's 87 years young, which becomes even more significant when you consider that she's also has won gold in the Senior Olympic Games. So without further delay, Miss Edna, welcome to Aging with Grace 55 Plus. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
Well, it's so good to have you on this show, and I really appreciate you being here. Before, I want to clarify something in your bio. It says that you are from Mahtomedi, Minnesota. Did I say that Ojibwe name correctly?
Mahtomedi.
Oh Lord, I butchered it. I knew I was going to do that. Say it just rolls off your tongue.
Everybody does that.
Mahtomedi. Yes.
Yes,
Very good.
correct.
Mahtomedi. Okay, very good. Well, Edna, you have an interesting story as an Olympian, especially specifically with regard to archery. But I want you to kind of take our listeners up to that point. You said that you were raised in, or you grew up in Florida, and your dad said you have to go hunt for dinner. So how did that work out for you in terms of hunting for dinner, I guess, with a rifle?
Well, when it was my turn to get meat for dinner, he'd hand me two 22 cartridges and tell me to get meat for dinner. And I didn't care for the killing, but I wanted the animal to be dispatched quickly. So I would do a headshot, and it was usually something like a rabbit or turkey or a kaloo, which was a wood ibis, but some small animal that we could eat in one meal.
Well, if you're talking about a headshot on a turkey or a squirrel or a rabbit, that's a very small target to hit. You had to be very good.
Well, my dad started me when I was 3 years old in the basement of our house in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And in the winter, he built a target box for us, and we would shoot at that.
Yes.
I need to turn my phone off.
You're good. You're good.
There. And the box was about 6 foot long, about 3 feet high, and he ran a rod through it and put corks on rods hanging down. So there were about 12 corks that started with one about the size of your little finger up to one that was about 2 inches across. And the object was to hit the target and make them swing. And by the time I was 6 years old, I could keep them all swinging.
Whoa. Whoa. So who knew we have an Annie Oakley growing up in Florida, a reincarnation of the famous markswoman from the Old West? Who knew?
Yes. And then when I went to college, I shot riflery on the Michigan State women's team, and then my last year on the men's team.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and ratchet forward to that. You shot rifle, but let's fix the period of time in our listeners' and viewers' minds where I understand photos of you were not allowed with the team. You certainly couldn't travel with the team. That had to be a challenging period of your life in terms of what you wanted to pursue in terms of marksmanship.
Well, the way I looked at it at the time was I was breaking ground for women. And the more, even though I couldn't do what I wanted to do, I was doing something more than any other woman had done. And so I felt that progress was being made.
That's so good. Progress was being made to the point where you became a first alternate Olympian for the rifle team, but that did not transpire as you had hoped it would. I imagine part of it was due to cost, yes?
Correct. That's right. I felt honored. I was thrilled to get the letter, but I also knew that there was no way I could do it because within 2 weeks period of time, I had to raise several $1,000s, and there was no way I could come up with that money. So I told my coach, someday.
Someday.
Yes.
Someday. And someday became a reality when apparently you saw a video for the National Senior Games while you were working out at the YMCA. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. Yes.
Great
I just
story.
sat there watching this, and I kept saying to myself, I can do this. I can do this. What am I going to do it in? And then
Yeah.
I thought, archery.
So I guess their archery would be logical connection. You have to aim. You have to, you know, I can kind of see the natural connection between riflery and archery. That would work out well. So how, from the moment and Edna, that you said that I can do that, to the time when you qualified for the National Senior Games, what was the training period like, and what did you have to do or learn?
Well, that was in October, and the qualifiers were the following spring,
Mm-hmm.
late spring, early summer. And so that gave me 6 months to get the equipment, learn how to shoot a bow properly, and prepare for it. And by February, so we're talking 3 months
Mm-hmm.
from the time I got the bow in my hands, my teacher, trainer, coach, whatever you want to call Dana, signed me up to go to the Wisconsin indoor championships. And it was a national rifle association tournament,
Mm-hmm.
an NFAA tournament. And the breakdown was that everybody over 70 was in the same age group. And I was the oldest woman there at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they put me with the men. And I had a great day shooting. I mean, it was just, I fell in love with archery that day because of the way the people around me treated me and included me and encouraged me and made me feel that this was something I could do. And at the end of that tournament, the 3 men that you shoot in groups of 4, and the 3 men that were in my group looked at me and said, "It won't be long before you're going to beat the socks off of us." and I, I thanked them and I said, "Well, that means you just have to keep working harder."
That's right.
And so, but the one thing about archery is that no matter where you're shooting, the majority of the archers are extremely supportive, and you're really shooting against your previous record rather than against other people. You may find yourself in a group where you're competitive, and of course I have to win. I mean,
of course, otherwise why would you do it?
That's part of my makeup, is I love the competition.
Right.
And but once you get into it, you find that it's more to it than competing.
Well,
and you're learning all the time, and you're also helping others learn.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. And as we're talking here, Miss Edna, you alluded to the National Senior Games, and that's a sports competition for senior citizens in the United States. It's conducted by the National Senior Games Association, NSGA, once every 2 years. And it's akin to Summer Olympics. It's a multi-sport event devoted to adults over the age of 50. And it consists of regional competitions held yearly in all states of the U.S. So with thanks to Mary Johns for setting up this interview, Mary indicated that there's a qualifying event in 2024, and then there are state games in off years. And in 2025, you guys are going to Des Moines, Iowa. So,
Yes.
so Edna, you have a bag full of gold medals. I mean, it's like this massive bag. Folks, you got to check out her video for Edna Siniff from where, Mary? In Minnesota? What town?
Mahtomedi.
So I'm not going to even bother that anymore, but say from your hometown, check her out, because you'll see this bag of gold medals. So what begs the question, madam, is this: are you going to compete in Des Moines in 2025?
The Lord willing, and the creek don't rise too high.
I love that. If the Lord is willing, the creek don't rise too high. You know, on this journey, you talked about, you related a great story about your grandkids. and how you said you grabbed the bow out of the basement. You took the kids to the range. They called their mother to report on you. Take us through that call, the first call, second call, third call for your grandkids.
Okay. Well, first of all, that was Grandma Day, and that was the marvelous gift my kids gave to me when I moved back to Minnesota. And so one day a week was Grandma Day, and the kids and I could plan it and do whatever we wanted without reporting. And so the boys told me they wanted to go shoot bows. I called up a friend of mine who was manager at A1 Archery and set up an appointment for us. I had the boys dig out my old longbow that I had shot in 8th grade. And we took it with just to see if it was safe to shoot. And they took it back into the shop and cleaned it, put a new string on it, put a bead on it, put an arrow rest on it, brought it out to me, set some arrows in front of me. And it was like I'd never walked away from it. It was just old home week. And so I was shooting with the boys, and I didn't know their mother had sent a cell phone. And so the first message to Mom was, Mom, Grandma's shooting a bow. And the next message was, Mom, Grandma's hitting the bull. And then the last one, Mom, Grandma's beating us. And then when we got to the car, I asked them how many of their friends had grandmas who would take them shooting and shoot with them. And they said, like 0.
Oh, what a great story, Edna. What a great story. As we go to our close, the remaining minute that we have, you use a compound bow now versus a long bow, correct? Yes. Easier on the joints, easier to control, I gather.
And it will go 60 yards. My arrows will go 60 yards. 60 because in our competition, we shoot 30 arrows at 60 yards, 30 at 50 yards, and 30 at 40 yards. So I needed a bow and arrows that were balanced for me, that I could reach 60 yards and stick it in the target far enough so it would be solid.
Wow. So you're firing 90 arrows.
Yes.
Over three rounds.
And in the national competition, we do that 2 days in a row. So that's 180 arrows over a 2-day period. And that's not counting your warm-up arrows.
Jeez, this is serious. I have a new profile. And that's why you're an Olympian. That's why you won these games so much, which is good. But Edna, here's the thing. You did not allow, and I want our listeners to be aware of this. You did not allow a setback to stop you or provide an excuse for you not to compete. You had an ear tumor. And so
it's an inner ear. It's actually outside of the hearing part of my ear, but it has compromised it. There's no hearing in that ear now because of it. And it also affects my balance. So when that happened, I thought I had to stop shooting because I didn't feel safe pulling a bow. So I told my doctor, and my doctor just put her arm over the side of her chair and she said, Edna, figure it out. You need archery. So I went back to the range, told them what my doctor said, and told them what my problem was. And everybody there pitched in, and we tried a lot of different things and discovered that a chair that was the height of a bar stool, if I just rested against it, that stabilized my body so I could shoot and shoot safely.
Well, I love that idea, but playing the devil's advocate, could I not, as a competitor, say you have an unfair advantage?
No, because there's nothing attached to my bow. It's the same. It's all it's doing is keeping me stable as my body. No different than if somebody was wearing braces. I've shot with disabled people, and there's all kinds of things that have been set up for the disabled people so they could shoot, but nothing's ever done to the bow. So what your bow is solid, and I've never had to change anything on my bow.
This is so good. Before I ask my last question, I've got this thought just came to mind. Is there a competitor? Don't give us their name, of course, But is there a competitor from a certain state that you always compete against? Or maybe you're hoping they don't make it to Des Moines in 2025?
There's 5 women that I shot with in 2015. And it's dwindled down now to 2 women. And they are wonderful. And I'm hoping that they'll still be shooting when I get there. They're about 10 years younger than me now. The ones that were my age are no longer out there.
What a great story. And I want to conclude with this. You say, get off the couch, get out the door, and do something do something. That's your adage. That's your mantra for seniors.
Yes.
I love that.
And for everyone.
This is so good. Folks, for our listeners, hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as I have. I regret I have to come to an end, Miss Edna, who is 87 years young from Minnesota. She competed in the 2023, 2019, and 2015 National Senior Games, and she's won a gold medal in compound release at all of those events. What a great story, Miss Edna. I trust you continue to do well, continue to excel there in Minnesota at your age, and with many thanks to Mary Johns for her diligence in setting this up on behalf of the National Senior Games Association. Have a great day, Miss Edna. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
When he turned 15 years old, and as I introduce you to our mystery person as part of this episode of Aging with Grace 55 Plus, each episode I like to end with a fun factoid. And as we head into the holiday season, you'll understand why the following factoid is certainly relevant to today's program. The person you're about to meet, when he turned 15, this young man started working aboard a whaling ship when he got the tattoo of a red star on the back of his hand. That clue, keep that in mind as we move forward, because this young man was born in 1822 and had grown up on Nantucket Island in Massachusetts, which at that time was the largest collection of millionaires, more than anywhere else in the United States, thanks to the prolific whaling industry. At 19, he started working as an apprentice in Boston. He had read about Benjamin Franklin's success and decided to model his own career after the legendary printer, inventor, and statesman. Unfortunately, printing didn't suit our mystery person as well as it did Franklin, so with the backing of his brothers, he opened his first dry goods store in 1843, which ultimately failed. Matter of fact, over the next 10 years, he failed at 4 additional retail ventures. So RH moved to California in search of gold in those hills, and he also dabbled in real estate speculation. So despite his retail failures, RH, as he was now known, returned to Massachusetts with $4,000 in his pocket and a wealth of new life experiences. He opened another store in Haverhill, Massachusetts in 1851. And guess what happened to that store? Yes, it too ultimately failed. However, the now 36-year-old had no intention of giving up. So he moved to New York City in 1858 and opened another dry goods store on the corner of 6th Avenue and 14th Street, immediately putting to use what he had learned from his successive failed stores. I think we're about 6 right now, right, total, and instituted groundbreaking initiatives in retail management. For example, he began offering lower prices for cash purchases in an era when most shoppers used credit. Matter of fact, he refused to even accept credit. He bought and sold merchandise only if he could do so with ready cash. Even as his business grew and wholesalers offered him credit, he refused it, deciding instead to work exclusively on a cash basis. And then another clue I want to remind you of, the red star. Remember that tattooed on his hand during his youthful whaling days? That red tattoo will become the shining symbol of his new retail venture. In the first year, while the recession of 1858 loomed over the country, his merchandise store did $90,000 in sales.
As the business grew, RH obtained the leases of 11 neighboring buildings, creating the concept of what we know today as the department store, selling everything from clothing to jewelry to china. Anything that you could imagine for the home, his stores obtained and sold to the public. By buying his store beyond the borders of main shopping district, remember he bought up leases on 11 neighboring buildings to create, at that time, what was the world's largest department store. He decided to draw on some unique newspaper advertising campaigns from his previous failed ventures. He developed marketing strategies that will one day become part and parcel of the retail industry. For example, he was the first to have department store windows. He was the first to have Santa Claus during the holidays, and he originated themed store exhibits and lighted displays to draw customers in from the street. He also offered money-back guarantees, which his store continued to do, and also continued to offer customers, which was unique in his day. So have you guessed who our mystery guest is? Have you thought about all the clues I've given you? Remember during his youthful whaling days, the red star from a tattoo on the back of his hand that became the symbol of his store? Well, here's a final clue for you. In 1902, the flagship store on Herald Square in New York City was built, and after a 1942 expansion, it became known as the largest store on earth, which is in itself very impressive. But to attract customers, he had created a parade of massive floats and character balloons, extensively decorated with special appearances from Santa Claus, and his Thanksgiving Day parade has been delighting children since 1924. And now you know the rest of the story. I'm sure you're putting the pieces together. The red tattoo on the back of his hand, RH, his initials. Well, now we can reveal who this mystery merchandiser was. Impressive in his day, RH, known also as Roland Hussey, who shortened his name to RH, as in RH Macy's. Well, that's the rest of the story. And, and he's created this brand, right, that expanded exponentially and has since then become a household name with more than 800 department stores across the United States. R.H. Macy, the star in his hand, began to adorn his stores and also became the symbol of his international empire. People are like, I knew that. Well, if you knew that, then well, anyway, never mind. I love sharing those kind of stories, and I hope you enjoy hearing them as well. In addition to our guests, we have some great guests on today's episode of Aging with Grace 55 Plus. First, I want to thank you for spending time to listen to us and enjoy this episode as much as I did, recording it for you, presented in collaboration with Kentucky AARP and DPL Financial, which is committed to strengthening financial plans with powerful products, delivering value for clients and advisors alike. For more information, please visit dplfp.com. And once again, thanks to our guest, Chip Conley, founder of the Modern Elder Academy, and also senior game Olympic medal winner Edna Siniff from Minnesota. For more information about the Modern Elder Academy, visit their website, meawisdom.com, or visit chipconley.com for more information about this impressive young man and the vision he has had and what he has created. For more information about the senior games, visit NSGA, which is National Senior Games Association, nsga.com. Remember, aging is not a time of diminishment or being relegated to the sidelines of life, but it is a time of application of lessons taught by some of our best teachers, including experience. And now for the last thought of the day from James B. Clear. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, writes, "Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy." So until next time, this has been your host, Dale Josie of Aging with Grace 55 Plus. Bye for now. Please visit my website, awg55.com, to listen to past episodes of Aging with Grace 55 Plus. including purchasing a deck of 35 oversized playing cards for deeper, more meaningful conversations with the seniors in your life or community.